My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content. Hey folks, welcome back. Today our special guest is Amy Sylvis, zooming in from Los Angeles, California. Amy is a syndicator, she is a capital raiser, she is a podcaster, she is a teacher and trainer. She does all sorts of things. So Amy, welcome to the show.
Dave, what a delight. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm really thrilled.
So Amy, I'm looking forward to our conversation. We're going to be talking about raising capital. That's one of my favorite topics. But before we do that, give us a little snapshot of what real estate looks like for you. What are you investing in? What kind of properties? What does that look like?
Yes. So we connect investors to large commercial real estate opportunities in emerging markets throughout the U.S. So what in the world does that mean? That means apartment buildings. That means flex industrial buildings in Texas, Alabama, Oklahoma, Indiana, Kansas, and such. We love being able to create communities, care for our investors, care for our residents as well, and make some profits. Nice.
So when it comes to the whole investing side of things, are you in these deals? Are you like a primary GP? Are you a sponsor? Are you a co-GP? What role do you typically play in these deals?
Great question. Typically co-GP. Sometimes I find the deal. Sometimes I invite investors to invest alongside of us. Sometimes I'm asset managing. I wear multiple hats, but typically in a co-GP capacity.
Very cool. And how long have you been doing this for, Amy?
My goodness. So I have been passively investing for about 15 years and jumped over to the active side about 7 or so years ago.
Okay, very good. Now, multifamily's been kind of a rocky road these last few years, with interest rates going up, with property values going down, that kind of stuff. Some uncomfortable conversations from time to time with investors. How has this affected you guys and the portfolio?
Thankfully, we've been okay. The biggest hiccup we've actually had was, like many folks in 2020, 2021, we had construction loans with our lenders, and we actually had 4 properties where our lenders decided to not give us and not follow through with their construction loan. I know. Big eye roll. Yes. So what that meant for us was, hey, y'all are in violation of, our contract. And they said, that's fine. We have much deeper pockets. We can bleed y'all dry. So go ahead, sue us. So our properties have been completely fine. We just, on a couple of them, are a bit behind with the renovation, the value add portion, simply because these banks were trying to protect their balance sheets from the highest and fastest interest rate increases that we've seen, at least in the US, in about 50 years. So they're trying to protect themselves. So we had to find another source of capital, which was a little bit slow going. But thankfully, other than that, our properties have been in really good shape.
God, that sucks when that kind of thing happens, doesn't it? I mean, contracts aren't worth anything if they can, outweight you in legal battles and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yes. Yeah. A lesson learned.
Dirty tricks, Amy, sometimes.
I tell you.
Well, you've learned a lot about capital raising. So one of the suggestions you had for the show was talking about some of the biggest mistakes you see capital raisers making on a regular basis. So I think you got 5 of them. I'd love to compare notes because I see people making mistakes all the time. So what are the biggest ones that you see all the time?
Absolutely. I would say the number one mistake that I see folks make is relying so heavily on friends and family and not expanding their investor base. Because the truth is that friends and family money, while it may be really easy to raise from, you already have that know, like, and trust. That money can tap out. And let's face it, investor sentiment has changed quite dramatically over the past year or two. So if you're not treating your capital raising like a business and doing lead generation, that can put you in quite a difficult situation. So I think that's the first big bummer, I would say, that people are not approaching properly. Let me know if you want me to go through the rest, or if you want to.
Well, I'd love to. Yeah, I love unwrapping that. So, what's been your experience? Like, for a long time, I worked with beginner capital raisers, helping them to tap into friends and family.
Yes.
And usually, it ranged but it was somewhere between, depending on how well-to-do their friends and family were, somewhere in the 500,000 to $1 million range is what I kind of typically saw. What have you seen with friends and family?
That's exactly right. It's so funny you say that. That's really the range. And I think, and that's wonderful, right? That can really make a beginning capital
Oh,
raiser
especially if you're
quite
doing
happy.
flips or something like that. But once you get into syndications, that doesn't take you very far.
Precisely. Well, and I think also it gives this false sense of, oh, I got this, because you think, oh,
Oh,
okay,
so easy.
I
Yeah,
raised this. I'm going to go on to my next deal. And well, wait a minute. I thought I could just grow that from there. So it
yeah,
gives kind of this false sense of security. So yeah, then you kind of end up with, gosh, I'm almost back to square one, because not only am I not exceeding what I raised before, but I'm actually further behind because I
yeah,
tapped out everything.
yeah. Because they already invested, so their money's stuck in a deal. Okay, so that's the first one: relying too much on friends and family, not growing the list. What would
Yes.
be another big mistake you see people making?
So the second one really ties to the first, and that's not understanding how to find new leads at scale. I find folks, I'd be curious to hear what you say, that go to conferences where other real estate investors are going and they all try to raise capital from each other.
That incestuous circle, right?
I get it. I think
Yeah.
some of these gurus teach people, hey, there's a lot of people with money, in your own network, in our own little guru circle. But gosh, that can be really difficult. Even going in person, I would argue, to conferences, maybe that aren't necessarily real estate related, you're still not having conversations at scale. And these aren't necessarily qualified leads. So you're kind of, blindly having these conversations, maybe after 5, 10, 20 minutes, figuring out if these folks are actually appropriate investors. And that traveling in that time, that can take a lot. So it doesn't mean that it can't work. It doesn't mean that it won't. But I do think that there are more efficient and effective ways to find and raise capital that will get folks where they want to go much easier.
Yeah, perfect story. That reminds me of one client that was part of one of those guru groups, and he brought his hot prospective investor into that group, and they swarmed on him like chum in the water, sharks to chum. And somebody else snapped up his investor into one of their deals, and he was the guy that introduced them to the group. So yeah, it can be very, very frustrating.
Oh, yeah, that's you don't know what you don't know, right? Which is
Yeah,
one of the
yeah.
reasons you
Well, he
work with
learned
people.
learned a valuable lesson, but
Yes.
yeah, thinking you're going to find a bunch of investors in a real estate group. I mean, I get it. It can happen, but there's just so much competition there.
Hmm.
I guess one advantage is typically people that you meet through meetups and real estate groups and real estate clubs have already drank the real estate Kool-Aid. They get it. They kind of understand it. They've
True.
just been too scared to pull the trigger themselves or don't have time. But you're right. There's just so much competition there. All right. What's the third one on your list there, Amy?
So the third one is not creating a funnel. So I'm sure everyone has heard about this, but really understanding what your investor story is. You find them. Once you find your investor, how are you getting them to know, like, and trust you, right? It
Yeah.
typically takes 8 or 9 touches for someone to feel comfortable enough to hop on the phone with you, let alone wire. So if you've met them once or had one conversation or one exposure, where are you going to get those other 8 or 9
Mm.
touches? So thinking through, again, how to do that, but maybe do that at scale where you're not actively involved in all 7 or 8 or 9 of those touches. Again, just increases your capital raising capacity as folks go down that funnel.
So what does that actually mean? What does that look like typically, Amy?
Yes. So I would argue things like creating an on-demand webinar. When someone decides, raises their hand and says, hey, I'm kind of interested in learning more about you, you have some sort of content for them to consume. You and I have podcasts. It may not always, at least mine is not always about real estate. We talk about a whole variety of topics, but that still allows folks to get to know me and have more of those touches. Posting on social media. I'm a big LinkedIn person. I love to provide education and value. Though each one of those posts where someone reads my content is an interaction. So yeah, I think that's a great way to get those done at scale. Just a few
Yeah.
suggestions.
No, those are really, really good suggestions. That's fantastic. So Just out of curiosity, because I hear different things about LinkedIn. What have you found to be like the optimal number of posts to do a week on LinkedIn yourself, Amy?
I teach my students generally to do 5 posts or 7 posts a week, if
Oh, wow.
possible. So
Okay.
it can feel overwhelming.
Hmm.
But when we think about not just what provides value to potential investors, but also what hacks the algorithm and places your content in front of the right people, that's generally the cadence that's favorable. Because we think about, I mean, I'm on LinkedIn every day. That doesn't mean my target avatar is on LinkedIn every single day,
No, they
right?
usually
So,
aren't, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
if I'm posting once or twice a week, I mean, hopefully the algorithm serves up one of those posts to them. But the more often I'm posting, the more likely I am to get in front of the person that I'm hoping to help.
Yeah. And to put that in perspective, I mean, I'm a big fan of Alex Hermosi, and I was just listening to him. They post 425 different pieces of content a week
Yes.
across all the different platforms. So if you think
Mhm.
7 posts is too much, drive yourself crazy. Try to keep up with Alex there. Right? So seven
He's
sounds
a
five.
different human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's got a whole team that helps him out with
Yes.
that as well.
Yes.
Okay,
That's
cool.
helpful
So
too.
that is having a funnel, having a way to have those 7, 8, 9 touches before somebody feels comfortable enough even to pick up the phone and or
Yes.
book a call with you. That makes a lot of
Yes.
sense. So that's number 3. What's number 4?
4 is this compliance piece. I don't care what anyone says. I think it's imperative for us to follow the letter of the law. You may not like the letter of the law, you may disagree with it, but ignorance of the law is no excuse. I see a lot of folks that are raising capital and being compensated on a pro rata basis without being licensed. And I don't know where this came in our industry, where it came from, if it's the gurus, or if it's just the blind leading the blind. But
Mm-hmm.
everyone needs to consult with a SEC attorney to make sure that the agreements that they're arranging are above board, are not violating securities law, because everything's fine and dandy when your deal's going well, right? But yeah, some deals are starting to go bad. There are going to be attorneys involved in trying to, poke holes in how these
Yeah,
deals
figure
are
out
set
whose
up.
whose fault it is, right?
Truly,
Yeah.
truly. And you don't want to be, I mean, and I don't think anyone's doing it intentionally, but goodness, you need to be careful, because the general kind of zeitgeist in this industry is very different than what the actual SEC law is with regards to raising capital and how folks may be compensated for it.
Okay, so I will take into account you're probably not a securities lawyer
Yes,
yourself, so we'll do
yes.
all that kind of stuff. But can you walk us through like an example of somebody just flagrantly screwing that up, knowingly or not?
Yes. So, yeah, and thank you for saying that. I am not a securities attorney. From my understanding, it is Joe over here has a deal. He's $1 million short of the capital raise that he needs to close. He brings in Sally and says, "Hey, Sally, if you bring $1 million, I'm going to pay you X amount of money and you're going to get an X amount of, GP share. And hey, by the way, if you bring in an extra, maybe 200,000 above and beyond, I'm going to increase that compensation. And all of this is going to depend on how much you raise. So once we close, we'll calculate how much you raised and compensate you based on that." My understanding of the law is that is variable compensation, or compensation on a pro rata basis, not allowed. Y'all need to come up with an agreement for services rendered above and beyond capital raising, as well as the raise, and have a flat fee regardless of performance, which is kind of risky, for all people involved, but it's legally compliant. That's my understanding.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I appreciate you sharing that. So when people are compliant, what does it kind of look like? You touched on it there.
Yes, yes.
So are you suggesting people need to get licensing for something, or just to have, a more proactive role if they're a GP in the project? They're not just raising capital, they have to do something else in that. And also, how does the compensation usually look like, or usually work legally?
Yes. So yeah, the licensing, being a licensed broker dealer, taking the series exams in the United States, that's one way to go. The other way, again, from my understanding, not an attorney, is yes, you have a role in the deal that is larger than just capital raising. And then also your compensation for that role above and beyond capital raising and the capital raising is a fixed amount agreed upon ahead of time. And that's the compensation. And so that doesn't change if you fall short on your raise or what you agreed, or if you go over than what you raised and what you all agreed upon. It's a fixed thing, fixed compensation ahead of time.
So either equity, percentage ownership in the deal, or fees or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's my understanding.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I could see people making lots of mistakes around that. And just really dumb stuff too, like people when they're advertising their deals or promoting their deals, talking about guaranteed returns and this and that and the other thing, like just makes you want to pull your hair up, which is probably why I'm kind of bald. All right, if my mathematics is correct, I think that was number 4. What's the 5th big mistake you see, Amy?
Yes. So the 5th one is trying to shoehorn investors into deals. I think we are in an incredible industry where we don't have to sell people. We don't have to convince people to invest. We have an opportunity, and our goal and our job should be to educate folks and empower them so these investors can make the best decision for themselves possible. Now, if you're raising capital and you're coming up on a deadline, you may be saying, Amy, I need to get people in this deal. What are you talking about? But I'm telling you, folks can feel that energy. And I don't think it's good ethical practice anyway. We need to really understand our investors, what their goals are, what their time horizon is, what their risk tolerance is. And hey, either they're a match or they're not. And it is not our job to try to strong arm people. I think the great news is what we do, and if we're doing capital raising and lead generation right, we're probably going to have a whole bunch of people that are a good fit. But this whole notion of kind of dragging people across the finish line to invest, I promise you, even though it may intuitively feel like it's going to help you get to your goals, it's going to bite you in the end. These are long-term relationships where we're here to serve people and match them with what they're looking for rather than force them into something that may not fit what they're looking for.
Yeah, see if what we have matches with what they want and what they need. Yeah, somebody once said, Steve Chandler once said, needy is creepy. Right? And it doesn't matter how good the deal looks on paper. If their spidey senses pick up on us looking, sounding, feeling desperate, that's going to just whatever, it's going to turn them off.
So true. And this is not a $50 widget, right? This is often a $50,000,
$100,000 widget.
Yes. Yeah. We need to treat it as such. This is a higher level consultative educational relationship, not a, I hate to always throw used car salespeople under the bus, but it isn't that type of relationship.
Isn't the 1980s, 1970s used car sales?
Yeah. Perfectly said. But I do think that disposition will serve all of us very well.
So, Amy, I wanted to ask you, one of the things I kind of have noticed with capital raisers, another mistake you might want to add there is they go for the kill too fast. They go for the cash too quickly. So what I always recommend is that once you've done a discovery call with somebody, that the next step is not to try and get them to cut you a check for 50 grand or 100 grand, but to get a warm commitment, to kind of get them to sign off on an expression of interest, or together with them, fill out your investor questionnaire. So what I always recommend people say is, say you and I had a discovery call, Amy, I'd say, Amy, it looks like this is something that you're interested in. Let me ask you a question. Would you like me to add you to my VIP investor list? Then if you're interested, you probably say yes. Okay, cool. Well, to do that, let's just get a little bit more information from you, make sure that this is a good fit for you. So then you go through your know your client investor questionnaire questions with them right there on Zoom or on the phone.
Yes.
Fill that out with them. And then you kind of get that more in-depth information that you need. You add them to your list, and then you're dripping, like you're talking about the funnel, dripping that information on a regular basis. And then you can go back a couple of weeks later, like if you do have a deal that's on the go, say, hey, Amy, you mentioned that when I have a really good deal that might be a good fit for you to reach out, I think I might have one. Would you like to take a look at it? Right. So it's a kind of it's a slower burn type thing, but I think it doesn't turn people off as much. What are your thoughts about people going for the kill too quickly?
I love that. Well, what I teach my students is exactly that. And I'll add an extra layer. My goal is by the time I'm on the phone with someone, they already know, like, and trust me, and they're ready to go. So back to this kind of funnel, 7, 8, 9 touches. I want by the time someone's on the phone with me, they're already ready to raise their hand. And we're just having specific discussions, exactly as you said, that are tailored to them, their specific questions, not frequently asked questions, because they've already seen those. And we're getting to know, like you said, the risk tolerance, the kind of specific investor questions that help develop that rapport. And I love that you say you keep that in mind. And when you have an opportunity that fits their goal, again, you're just playing matchmaker there as opposed to, going in for the kill. So I couldn't agree with you more. I think that slow, methodical, low pressure, no pressure type scenario is inviting. We want them to come to us. We want our sales funnel to be so good that they're raising their hand at every step and they're coming to us rather than us pulling them in. Yeah. You said it so well.
Well, I love your approach. I think we're definitely on the same page there, Amy. Yes. Now, as we're wrapping up our interview here, you're also a podcaster. Tell us a little bit about your show.
Oh, well, kind. Thank you. It is called the Secrets to Abundant Living podcast. And I'm sure everyone listening to this, and you including Dave, real estate isn't our end destination. It's simply the vehicle, right? It's the vehicle to do what we want, when we want, where we want, with whom we want, for however long we want. So the show really talks about real estate as an investment vehicle, but then we also have all sorts of guests that demonstrate abundance in all aspects of their lives. So whether it's the new head of the USC marching band, I'm a big band dork, or a breast cancer survivor, or we just talked to a woman who's a real powerhouse investor, not a lot of women that invest in this space, and just talking about how she's cultivated her life. We'd love to talk to people who define abundance in different ways to really inspire our listeners to design their life on their terms.
Very nice. That's lovely.
Thank you.
So, Amy, you're big into LinkedIn. If people want to reach you out and connect with you, is that the best place for them to go?
That's the best place. I'd love to meet folks and see how I can add value.
And how do they find you on LinkedIn?
Well, I've got that funny, spelling of my last name, but it is Amy Sylvis. So hopefully in the show notes, my last name will be there. Just plug in my name. Thankfully, it's there aren't a lot of Amy Sylvises out there, so you'll find me with the red hair.
All right, sounds good. Amy, it's been an absolute pleasure having this conversation. Keep up the good work, and thanks very much for being on the show.
Oh, what a delight. Thank you again, Dave. Really appreciate you.
All right, everybody, take care. We'll see you on the next one. Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewsyou.com.